I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. We are going to break down game three, why the Detroit Pistons lost this one, and how they can bounce back for game four on Monday. We're going to get it into the box score and the team stats to better outline what happened in tonight's game. And as always, we'll be opening up the show to comments and questions. If you guys have any comments and questions watching live on YouTube right now, make sure to drop them down below in the comment section, and we'll make sure to try to get to each and every one of your comments with this show today. But let's get into our quarter notes and kind of just go over this game. So to start the first quarter, I really liked what I saw out of Cade Cunningham. He did finish with 8 points in the first quarter. And this was a game where it was a lot of back and forth, a lot of the Pistons and the Magic were just kind of exchanging runs. But the Pistons really didn't stop Orlando very early on in this first quarter. JB did have to take an early timeout after they went up 13-8. And then it was just so much dribble penetration in the paint. And Orlando did that for a majority of game three. They did a lot of that in game one as well. They go on a 10-0 run after that timeout by JB Bickerstaff. There was another official timeout. The Pistons defense kind of collectively got better. They did a better job of contesting the rim, and they started getting into transition in lob opportunities. Jalen Duren caught two. Asar Thompson caught one from Cade. And I do want to kind of talk about Asar. Like, his impact tonight was excellent. I felt like if Asar didn't have the game that he did have, Magic probably win by 20, in my personal opinion. He was just everywhere, making stops, passing, did hit a mid-range jumper in the first, was able to tie the game at 18 midway through the first quarter. Duren did do a better job, I will say, at protecting the rim. We'll kind of get into him a little bit later in the podcast. This part of the game I was really confused by. So Isaiah Stewart and Goga Batadze were battling down low for position. They get double fouls, right? I'm like, okay, double fouls, whatever. 30 seconds later, Tony Brothers sees both of them, still battling for position as Orlando's bringing the ball up the court, and he decides, I'm going to give him a technical foul, which I'm like, okay, whatever. But the Pistons did do a better job of closing the first. They closed it with the 18-10 run, and we're all knotted up at 26 after 12 minutes of play. So, each team had their runs. Each team made defensive stops, and you're like, okay, this is just going to be a very similar game to game two, where it's just back and forth, and you're just waiting for a team to take over. Danish Jenkins did start the second quarter, did hit two big shots for the Pistons. Tobias Harris did make some great plays at the rim, got to the free throw line as well. Pistons did have to take a timeout after they did struggle to score a little bit. Jalen Suggs did hit a pretty crucial three at that time of the game. It was 42-36, and he just had a great game overall. Anytime he does hit threes, the Magic are just a completely different team. Isaiah Stewart got called for a flagrant on Jalen Suggs a couple of plays later. And I'm kind of confused just by this play in particular, because he was making a play on the ball. But again, the officiating crew said that Isaiah Stewart winded up to hit Jalen Suggs in the face. Now, you watch the instant replay. He does get hit in the face, but there's no really wind up by Isaiah Stewart. He was just kind of making a play on the ball, but there was just way too many turnovers by the Detroit Pistons in the second quarter. And Cade had a really bad second quarter, did not make a field goal, had 0 points in the second quarter. And the Magics were able to kind of take advantage of the Pistons' sloppy play in the second quarter. And Isaiah did get a loose ball foul to end the quarter with Wendell Carter. And the Magic go up 61-54 at halftime. Now, coming out of the third, we've had third quarters this year where, the Pistons come out, they make adjustments, but this third quarter was more Orlando. They didn't allow the Pistons to have the third quarters that they typically do. They did start the third with the 4-point play with Duncan Robinson. However, the Magic just forced 3 quick turnovers, went on an 8-0 run. JB Bickerstaff took a timeout after Paulo was wide open for a three. It was 71-60 at that point in the game. And we saw Paul Reed actually get some clock and it wasn't garbage time. I don't know what JB said to Isaiah Stewart at halftime. He talked to him for quite a bit, but we saw Paul Reed for a majority of the third quarter in this one, and he was impactful like he always is. He stays ready, but we just didn't really execute in the half court. There was just way too many isolations with Cade. The ball wasn't moving, and Orlando got to the free throw line a ton, just too much fouling on our part. And obviously, there were some fouls that were kind of like, 50-50 calls. It could go either way. Javonte Green did hit a really big three-pointer in the corner in the third to make it a 6-point game late in the third. But Orlando did surge towards the end, and it was 87-79. To start the fourth, you're thinking this game is going to be completely over. Magic open up the fourth on a run. They go up 94-79, and nobody on the court could just really generate any looks with Jacobs, Javonte, Herter, and Stu with Cade on the bench. Cade does come back into the bench, comes off the bench into the game, and he starts to take over. And this was once a 15-point lead, and the Pistons just keep chipping away at it. Cade hits a big three, tie the game, gets to the free throw line, and the Pistons actually have a lead, surprisingly. But the last 2 or so minutes of the game, they just couldn't hit a shot. Franz Wagner hit 2 big shots. Paulo Banchero's 3 reminded me so much of Tyrese Halliburton's 3. It just bounced off the cylinder and then went back in. The thing went over the backboard and went in. I can't even hate. That was just a incredible shot to watch in real time. Jalen Duren did foul out trying to grab a rebound with Wendell Carter. And, the Pistons just couldn't really generate anything. I feel like it was just a lot of just hero ball threes, forcing threes, didn't really get into our half-court set to run anything. And the Magic were able to get a win tonight, 113-105. They go up 2-1 in the season, in the playoff. I was going to say season series. I'm so just used to saying season series, but they go up 2-1. Next game will be on Monday, so we're back to every other game. No more 3-4 days off between playoff games. Don't even know why that was a thing. I think it was a network thing if I did have to guess. But you'll play Orlando again at home on Monday. But this was a game where I really feel the Pistons did not play their best basketball. The turnovers, you just have to limit those turnovers. You can't keep committing the turnovers that you are committing. You have to move the ball much more. I think you have to get into your sets more quickly, because if you give Orlando a chance to play set defense in the half court, we can see how physical and how handsy they are getting to loose balls, poking at balls. Cade Cunningham just had a game where, we're gonna look at this box score and just see how much he did struggle with the Orlando Magic defense. But let's kind of get into the box score. I'm not going to go over it too much. I'm just going to go over the points and the field goals and just kind of look at the turnovers in this one. So Tobias had a good game, 23 points, shot 50% from the field. He was 8 out of 16, 2 out of 6 from 3. And, overall, Tobias was a very big calming presence out there. Tobias Harris, we're not going to nitpick whatsoever. Thought he had a good game. Duncan Robinson in 28 minutes had 10 points. He was 3 out of 8 from the field, 3 out of 7 from 3. Now, Orlando knows that the Pistons are looking for Duncan from 3. So his looks that he's trying to generate, he's got a hand in his face every time. I'd like to see him pick it up in game 4 because I know he's capable of doing that. I'd like to see him more aggressive in game 4. Jalen Duren, I think this is a player we're going to talk about, right? I'm sure you guys have questions about what's going on with him. So he had 8 points, only 3 for 10 from the field, 9 rebounds, 2 turnovers. He did have 5 blocks. I do want to credit where credit's due. He did protect the rim tonight, but you're going to need more than 8 points out of Jalen Duren in a playoff game. I know the Magic have been cramming the paint. I know they're just putting so many bodies on him, and they're limiting him from getting those second chance points that he likes to get. They're limiting him from his dribble drives. He's got to do a much better job of understanding what the defense is giving him. I feel like he is forcing a lot of things in this series so far. Now, Cade Cunningham, let's get into Cade. So 27 points, which is great, but you look at the field goal attempts, 8 out of 23, 3 for 10 from 3. Did had a good game at the free throw line, 8 out of 9, but you had 9 turnovers and 9 assists. The Magic did a very good job of just putting so many different bodies on him, whether it was Anthony Black, Desmond Bane had a couple cracks at it, Franz Wagner got switched onto him. Cade's got to do a better job of taking care of the basketball. The Pistons collectively, I believe, had 16 turnovers, and Cade was responsible for 9 of them. You cannot have 9 turnovers in a playoff game and expect to win. You just can't. You have to do a better job. Sar Thompson, again, we're not going to nitpick Asar whatsoever. I feel like Asar is a big reason why the Pistons were able to stay in this game. A lot of the stuff that he did just did not show up on the box score, but he did give you double-digit scoring with 17 points, 7 out of 10 from the field, 8 rebounds, 2 steals. He also had 5 blocks in this one. He was phenomenal. If we look at the bench, man, like the bench has been so disappointing during these playoffs, and I get, playoff rotations are completely different. Your second unit isn't going to be as reliable as you are relying on them in the regular season. But no Ron Holland tonight. He did not play whatsoever. Javonte Green got a bulk of the minutes, and he had 23 minutes. He had 6 points. His defense, I don't think was as good tonight as it was in game 2. I was kind of disappointed in that. But you look at Isaiah Stewart, he played 12 minutes in this one, only scored 3 points, had 3 rebounds and 1 block. Obviously, there was a little bit of altercations there, and maybe that's why JB didn't play him as much, because he didn't want him to possibly get in trouble and wants to save him for majority of the series. That's why you saw Paul Reed get 7 minutes, off the bench in the third quarter, and Isaiah was sitting on the bench for all of the third. Kevin Huerter in 15 minutes just didn't really do anything, couldn't really get comfortable. Did have 5 assists in this one, though. Danish Jenkins in 7 minutes, had 5 points, had a better shooting night. But overall, like Tobias and Cade have just been your consistent scorers in this one. You really need Jalen Duren to step up. You need Duncan Robinson to step up if you want a chance to beat the Orlando Magic. But let's get into just the team stats, and this really paints the picture of this game, right? You see that the Pistons shot a better percentage from the field. They shot 44% to Orlando's 40%. But if you would have told me going into this game that the Orlando Magic were going to shoot 45% from 3, I would have told you, yeah, it's going to be a long night, because that's not a good 3-point shooting team. Desmond Bane had his best game of the series. First 2 games has been abysmal, was really crucial for the Magic tonight in hitting 3-point shots. They said in the broadcast he broke an Orlando Magic playoff record. They just do not have good 3-point shooters. I don't expect them to shoot 45% for the rest of the series. They're not a good 3-point shooting team. The numbers do back that up. Pistons didn't shoot poorly from 3. They shot 34%, but you would have told me they would have shot 45% from 3. I probably would have said, yeah, the Pistons probably lose this game, because the Magic has had magnet ball attempts from 3 tonight. Free throws, as we look at it, Pistons were 20 out of 24. Magic were 26 out of 33. Overall, they did a pretty good job at the free throw line. The Magic did out-rebound them by 6, 48-42. And 14 offensive rebounds is where I think we can all agree. You have to limit them from crashing the glass. We just do not do a good job every possession of actually boxing out and securing defensive rebounds. Like, if you're going to give them, 14 offensive rebounds and they're shooting the way they are from 3, it was going to be a very tough night to win this basketball game. We did out-assist them by 2. We did have more blocks in this one, 12-8. Magic did have more steals, 8-6. But the turnovers, like 16 turnovers, is just way too much. The Magic did commit 14, but again, if you want to win this game, you're going to have to take better care of the basketball. And points in the paint, they did win 40-36, but even before looking at this, it just seemed like the Magic's game plan was just to attack the Pistons in paint defense, attack their rim protection, because they know that, Jalen Suggs can get in there, Paolo can get in there, Franz can get in there, and Jalen Duren did do a better job, but, collectively this team has to do a better job of just making sure that they're communicating defensively. But I do want to get into the comments and questions. I see a bunch of people just dropping comments, and I want to go through them. So we're going to just take a quick break. Let me go through these comments, and then the rest of the show will just be about you guys. We can kind of react and recap this game and how the Pistons can get into game 4 and try to knock the series up at 2 apiece. So let me just take a quick break, you guys, and we will be right back. Okay, guys, thanks for standing by. Let's kind of get into this Q&A for this post-game podcast, okay? Do see some comments that I kind of want to react to. So we got Marquez. I'm not going to panic. It's a 7-game series. However, what is going on with Duran? He's simply not playing like the all-star player so far this series. I don't think the series is over, too. I think a lot of people are so reactionary game by game. Like game one, a lot of Pistons fans thought the series was over. Game two, at home, they respond, have a huge third quarter, and not up the series. Tonight was a game where I don't think the Pistons played their best basketball, and you have to credit where credit is due. Orlando had a game plan of attacking the Pistons in the paint, and they shot phenomenally from three. They shot really well from three. Now, the Pistons didn't do a good job on closing out on three-point shooters, and maybe that's a scouting thing from the coaches. I'm not entirely sure, but in the playoffs, it's so important every possession to make sure you're closing out on three-point shooters and making sure you're rotating defensively. Now, to your second question, what is going on with Jalen Duren? I think it's all mental. I really do. I maybe the moment is just too bright for him right now. He did do a better job of protecting the rim tonight. 5 blocks was huge, but offensively, you're going to need more than 8 points. Like Caden Tobias have been your number one and number two options in this series, and you just need Duren to be more productive. But again, it's more to me watching Orlando, the way that they're guarding him and the game plan for Duren is to pack the paint, take away his right side because they know that he doesn't like to go left as often as he does right. And I think you just have to credit Jamal Mosley and the Orlando Magic's schemes against Jalen Duren. They know what he wants to do. And I think Duren has to adjust to not only know what the scouting report is, but make the correct read so the Pistons can have a chance to win. But you're going to need more out of 8 points. Again, I think it's a mental thing. I know some people think that he's hurt. I don't think Jalen Duren's hurt. If he was hurt, he wouldn't have had 5 blocks tonight. A lot of people say that his back is hurting or his knees are hurting. I don't think that. I think he saw the effort defensively. It's just offensively, Wendell Carter and the Orlando Magic defenders have done a really good job of limiting him from getting going. And it's a really good game plan by them. And, someone had said Duren is facing defense that is game plan for him in the first time this season. He was better on defense tonight, but still not as good as Wendell Carter Jr. overall. Agreed, 100%. Like, you articulated everything that I was trying to say. Like, they've just done a better job of, preparing for him. Like, in the regular season, not too many teams were scouting for him. And I know that might sound crazy kind of looking at the season that he had, but early on, most teams are just scouting for Cade and limiting his touches and making sure other people around him don't get going. Duren has taken a step in progression of scoring the basketball this season, but he just needs more of a go-to post move. He needs to be able to hit mid-range jump shots. I don't think he's a finished product, but he's been very disappointing so far, in this first round series. And again, you have to credit Orlando and how they've defended him and how they game plan for him so far early on in this first round series. Question says, we have no heart, no shooters, inconsistent stars. How to mention the coach won't play anyone that can actually score off the bench like Marcus Sasser. I was not expecting Marcus Sasser in this playoff series whatsoever. I just wasn't. Now, JP has played Kevin Huerter off the bench, but Kevin Huerter isn't getting clean looks, much like Duncan Robinson. Orlando knows that the Pistons' two biggest threats from the perimeter is Duncan Robinson and Kevin Huerter. They'll live with Tobias Harris hitting threes. They'll live with Javonte Harris shooting threes. I don't expect Marcus Sasser in this first round series unless it's like a blowout or unless like the Pistons have won this game. Don't count on Marcus Sasser to play in this game. He just has not been in the rotation all season. I know fans want, more perimeter shooting out there. He's just not going to play. And I think that was such a big point with a lot of people going into the regular season of adding more three-point shooters because we had Malik Beasley and Tim Hardaway last year. This year we have Duncan Robinson and we had Kevin Huerter at the deadline, but our three-point shooting problems aren't really a new thing. It's been a problem. And I think, if the Pistons want to give themselves a chance, they have to get better looks for the three-point shooters. Rattel Watson, is this series over? I don't think so. I don't think the series is over. I think you've seen both of these teams play really good basketball. I will say the Magic have been more consistent throughout this series. They've played better quarters. I'll probably say the Pistons have played 3 good quarters out of this whole series. The Pistons have not played their A game whatsoever. They've had a lot of sloppy plays, a lot of bad turnovers, a lot of isolations, not getting set in the half court, letting the Magic just drive into the paint, getting whatever they want, not closing out on three-point shooters. I think the Pistons have areas where they can improve, and hopefully in game 4, they come out more focused, more aggressive, like we saw at home in the third quarter, because the third quarter shows you they're capable of locking in, they're capable of making defensive stops, and they're capable of, running their offense and moving the ball, right? Tonight, you didn't really see too much ball movement, especially when Cade was kind of struggling, kind of hunting and looking for his shot, but we just have not played our best ball. The Magic have been a little bit more consistent, but I still think the Pistons can win this series. It's also worth mentioning the Magic play really good at home, like really good at home. They're a very tough team to beat in Florida. I have a comment about Duren. Duren should not be getting a big paycheck after this. Yet another shooter. That's a conversation that I think a lot of us are probably going to have during the playoffs, depending on how they kind of unfold. It's been reported multiple times that Duren's looking for a big payday. It's no secret. I think even a casual Piston fan knows that the Detroit Pistons are anticipating Jalen Duren maybe asking close to a max contract. To me, what he did in the regular season is impressive, but where you really get paid, in my personal opinion, is how you perform in the playoffs. Now, I'm not pocket watching, but I think the money that he's asking for, he absolutely will not get if this continues. If he really wants to get paid close to a max contract or get paid like some of the top centers in the league, you have to have better outings, and you can't let Wendell Carter get the better of you. These past couple of games, you have to be the aggressor. You have to get into the paint, be more aggressive. Look to get more paint touches, look to be more aggressive in your scoring. But I understand Pistons fans kind of looking at like the way this team is constructed financially and looking at Duren and his performances and saying like, yeah, man, I don't think you're worth close to that max that you want. I don't think you're, worth X amount of dollars. It'll be interesting to see what happens this summer with the Pistons and how everything unfolds. I do agree the Pistons do need another shooter. I will say this, though, as it does relate to roster construction with the Pistons. Don't be surprised if you do see a big trade by the Pistons this summer. Trajan has said the past 2 years, we're evaluating, we're seeing what this roster needs. He has 2 years of evaluation. In the playoffs, I think he understands what Cade, what Asar, and what JB Bickerstaff needs surrounding this team going forward. He does. Would not surprise me if the Pistons use a couple of their first, maybe a young asset, to go get a player next to Cade Cunningham to elevate his game and make sure he's not taking, all these difficult jump shots, come playoff time next season. I really think the Detroit Pistons are going to be extremely aggressive in seeing what they can add this summer. But I did kind of want to, drop that nugget. I do expect, some big movement by the Pistons, regardless of this first round series, because as a Piston fan, you guys can see what this team needs. It's Cade Cunningham and Tobias Harris right now. Cade needs a number 2. He needs a number 2 option. The number 2 option this year was Jalen Duren during the regular season, and he looked great. But you need another player to pair next to Cade for, the foreseeable future, in my personal opinion. And I think there are options out there. I'm not going to name any names. I'll let you guys, have those conversations. I've seen some people, drop out Trey Murphy's. I've seen some people drop out Kyrie Irving multiple times. Definitely see the Detroit Pistons being extremely aggressive this summer, though, as it pertains to roster construction and getting this team another star, whether it's in the backcourt, whether it's at the forward position, or whatever it may be. Would not surprise me if you see the Detroit Pistons make a pretty big move during this offseason. Not playing Ron was my issue with JB. Now, Ron has kind of been, up and down, in my personal opinion. He really has. It's just a situation where when you see Javonte Green and the way that he was playing in game 2, JB Bickerstaff probably wanted to reward Javonte in game 3. I was surprised that Ron did not get any clock whatsoever. I'm probably the biggest Ron fan. He's one of my favorite players. I was very surprised he didn't get a single minute, like even just to give Javonte some rest. But Ron was a DMP coach's decision. I was very interested to see that he didn't get anything whatsoever. But I personally think that maybe he does get some time. I'm not saying he's going to get 20 minutes, but maybe you do give Ron a good 5 to 10 minutes, because the one constant with him has been energy and hustle. And I think we were missing that multiple times throughout the game. We were missing some of those Ron Holland type highlight plays, those Ron Holland type of energy plays that keeps possessions alive, or just his defense overall. But rotations have been so up and down throughout this series with JB Bickerstaff. I'm not really entirely sure what the game plan is, what the minute he's looking at certain players. But game 4, I think he's going to roll the dice again, just playing on whoever's playing the best out there. Maybe Ron does get some clock, maybe he doesn't, but I think you're in every right to kind of be upset that he didn't get any clock whatsoever. We'll do a couple of more comments and questions with you guys, and then we will wrap up this show, because I do have somewhere I actually need to be. I'll go to Mr. Ray. Kind of piggybacking off of the second option conversation we were having a little while ago. He says, we need a second option next to Cade. I love Duren, but Koo asked me this question a few weeks ago, and my answer remains the same. Sign and trade Jalen Duren for a second star and draft a young big in 26. Man, Mr. Ray. that's an offseason content for sure. I agree with the second option conversation. Cade does need one. I think what you kind of have to ask yourself as a fan, like outside of the series, right? Outside of the series, who are the players that you want to build around on this team? Obviously, Cade. I like Asar for his defense, right? And then you have your mix of bench players like Stu, Ron, Javante's going to be a free agent. Duncan's contract is non-guaranteed, so you're not really committed to him long term. Tobias Harris is a free agent. Like, what are you trying to do long term to maximize Cade Cunningham's potential to make sure that the Detroit Pistons play deep playoff runs and possibly win an NBA championship, right? The connection with Cade and Duren is special, but it really depends what's out there, right? No player is untouchable. We've seen that. We've seen Rob Pelinka completely rob Nico Harrison for Luka Doncic. I don't think the Pistons are going to be that lucky for that type of trade, right? But it really depends what's out there, this summer. I'm not really in the mindset of trading Duren. I would only be in the mindset of like, what is the contract that you can get him under? Because I think he's a good player still. I think he still needs more time to develop his offensive game because I do think there are some things there. But trading him, I think, is a conversation that some fans have had in previous off seasons, especially during the Monty Williams year. But I don't really know if I'm like in the mindset of like trading him right now. But again, like, yeah, you said you want to rebuild around Cade, Stu, and Asar. Like, that's fair. That's fair. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I just kind of want to see like how it unfolds in terms of like negotiations with contracts, because you can't go to the table asking for a max when you're only putting up 8 points a game in a first round series against the Orlando Magic. You just can't. But I do kind of want to get into how the Pistons can bounce back in game 4. But I appreciate the question, Mr. Ray. That is a spicy one, man. That is a spicy one. I'm sure we'll probably have off-season conversations like we always do when we do have our podcast in the summer. But I appreciate the question. Appreciate kind of the insight of like what you're thinking, what you how you want to build this team long term. But game 4, Monday. How can the Pistons bounce back? How can they tie the series 2-2? Here are my thoughts. I think if you're Detroit, you need to do a better job of making sure that the Magic aren't getting into the paint as much as they are getting into the paint. It seemed like every possession they were looking to drive the basketball into the Pistons paint defense and just say like, hey, if Durham blocks it, cool. If not, we're getting free throws, right? That is their game plan. And then kick it out to 3-point shooters if the paint gets kind of packed. I think if you're the Pistons, you need to do a much better job on the perimeter, making sure the Magic don't get by your first guy, your point of attack defender. They need to do a much better job of rotating. I feel like the Magic did such a good job in game 1 and game 3 tonight, or today rather. This 1 p.m. like start is just effing me up. I keep saying tonight. They need to do a better job of making sure that the Magic don't get such good position in the paint, and also rotate defensively and make sure that you're not leaving a guy like a Jalen Suggs open from 3. He shoots 37% from 3 at home and 29% on the road. He hit some crucial big 3-point shots. Desmond Bane was bound to have a game like this. He was bound to have a really good outing for the Orlando Magic. You were not going to hold him to 29% shooting this entire series. The reason why Orlando traded for Desmond Bane was games like today. He's a very good player. The Pistons have to do a better job of tracking him and making sure they have a body on him and being aggressive on their closeouts from 3 with Desmond Bane. And I feel like so many people are just so focused on Paolo Banchero in this series, but to me, it's been Franz Wagner. Franz has been just such a good player for the Magic, and it's been his shooting that has been an issue. He hit a mid-range shot really late in the fourth quarter to give the Magic their lead back. Hit a really clutch three-point shot late in the fourth to make sure the Magic did win this game tonight. But if you're the Pistons, you need to make sure you have a body on Franz at all times. Like their big three of Franz, Paolo, and Desmond Bane can be very deadly when they're hitting jump shots. They have to do a better job of having bodies on them, rotating defensively, and making sure they're not getting just so much prime position in the Detroit Pistons paint. They need to do a better job of communicating, making sure the Magic don't get there. I know that is easier said than done. It is easier said than done. But I do believe the Pistons can make those adjustments for game 4. Now, that was mostly on the defensive end, what I'd like to see them work on. Offensively, if there are prime opportunities to push the pace, we saw it a little bit in the first quarter today, you have to take those opportunities. You have to push the pace because Orlando is not a good defensive team in transition. They are a very good set half-court defensive team. And I think that's where Orlando wants the Pistons to be. They want to be set defensively in the half court. You saw Cade and his turnovers tonight and the Pistons in general that had 16 turnovers. The Pistons have to do a better job when they are executing out of the half court. Get things going, speed it up, get the ball up the court fast, get into your sets. Because as soon as Orlando gets into their sets defensively, it's very hard to score on them. And the way that they're packing the paint right now, you have to swing that ball side to side and get the ball moving. You can't have possessions where you're dribbling it for a good 7 to 8 seconds to get that isolation mismatch. I think the way you beat Orlando is moving the ball, getting them out of position defensively like you did in the third quarter in game 2. The third quarter, very early on, if you guys go back and watch the game, the way that they were moving the ball, and Duncan Robinson talked about this on the ESPN broadcast, saying like, let's move the ball, let's have fun out there. We really didn't see too much ball movement tonight by the Detroit Pistons. I think if you want to win game 4, you have to move the ball. You have to get into your sets very early on and just try to limit your turnovers if you can. Again, easier said than done. Orlando has a lot of individual great defenders that they're going to throw at Cade Cunningham. They're going to throw at Jalen Duren, Tobias Harris, etc. I think if you're the Pistons, you can make those adjustments. And the final thing, I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from just the rotations in general. I understand JB wanted to keep Stu on the bench in the third because it was looking like he might have got ejected out of that game just the way he was playing tonight. Obviously, it was very chippy with him and Goga Batadze and Wendell Carter, but I'd like to see a little bit more consistency from JB, whether that's playing Ryan in a short spurt, maybe 4 to 5 minutes just to give Javonte a breather, or whether that's just kind of, trying something that maybe be a little bit unorthodox. Maybe you do double bigs to try to match size for size with Orlando with Paolo and Wendell Carter, because Wendell Carter is a big guy. And you keep getting beat on the offensive glass by Orlando. But if you can kind of limit those things and just try to, control the possession game, make sure you're taking care of the basketball. I do like the Detroit Pistons' chances in this game. And again, like going into this game, it was only a 2.5 point spread on FanDuel. Like they thought that this game was going to be close and down to the wire. I personally didn't know where it was going to go. I thought this game had a chance to be very entertaining, and it was, but we'll see what does happen for game 4. Don't know if we're doing a post-game podcast for game 4. I am actually going to a watch party out in Southfield. I'm trying to remember the location of it, but if I do a podcast, it might be on my cell phone in the bar. Never really know what's going to happen. But if we do a podcast, the quality might be a little bit louder, whatever. But if we don't, just know that I will be at a watch party. Got invited out with some content creators that wanted this to get together and watch a Pistons game and have some fun. But appreciate you guys watching for the past 40 minutes. Hopefully the Pistons can, bounce back in game 4. But until next time, you guys, hope you guys are having a great rest of your day. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.